Well, hi, everybody. Todd Nash, Senate District 29. I'm here to give a final wrap up of the 83rd legislative session that just took place. We sine-died, gavelled out about 11:15 on Friday night. I got home here back to Wallowa County Saturday afternoon. Got to stack a little hay, check on some cattle. It's been wonderful to be home. But enough of that. I am going to talk about what happened this session, some of the good, the bad, and indifferent here. So here we go. So most of you know we got wolf compensation, and that was a policy change. The first one, Senate Bill 777, pulled a multiplier in there. And those of you that are having depredation problems throughout Oregon, no matter where you're at, I would encourage you to call those in. This is a different formula than what we've used in the past for compensation. It doesn't change the investigation portion of it, doesn't change anything except for before, if you had an animal that was injured or killed, you got paid 1-to-1 for that. Now, if it's a calf, sheep, goat, you get paid 5 times the value of that animal. That's a significant amount of money, folks, and you are suffering significant losses. And this bill takes that to where we're a little bit closer to getting those made whole. We're never going to be able to address all of the things that come with wolves. Ranchers never wanted them here to begin with. This is the fallback, and so I was glad to sponsor this legislation. And there's a huge amount of people to thank that are responsible for the successes of this. And I won't try to go through every one of them, but I am going to mention a couple of them because they were really core in this. So John Williams, former OSU extension that worked on this from a long time, from the extension portion of it, retired, and then I had opportunity to appoint him as co-chair of the Wolf Committee for Oregon Cattlemen's Association, and he has worked feverishly on this and other things wolves. But a lot of credit due to John. Burl Nelson, also co-chair of that committee, longest serving committee chair in Oregon Cattlemen's Association, has done some work on it as well. Then another person that worked on it and has worked on compensation since the first compensation package came out, and that's Brandon Persinger. He was working for Senator Hansel at the time when that first came out, worked really hard, worked really well with me at the time and others. And it was really gratifying to see Brandon in a different position there with the Association of Oregon Counties, still fighting for this and seeing it across the line, and really appreciate Brandon, Association of Oregon Counties, and everybody else that worked on that. But I wanted to highlight those 3 that have been there for so long in this battle. Enough of that. So Walla Walla Basin, that was Senate Bill 761. That was a policy change to be able to send water a different direction intermittently for uses on that particular area. All agriculture has different needs, and they sought a different way to irrigate, to intermittently put water back in stream. That needed a water policy change, and we were able to get that. The reason we were able to get that was a great collaborative effort between 2 different states, between different agencies from those states, from tribes, from the water users, all pulling the same direction. I just rarely see that for the benefit of everybody. And we need more of that. We need to go into these negotiations, into these things, trying to find a win for everybody. And this truly was. And I was glad to be a part of that legislation. And then ultimately see that funded the way they ask it to be funded for $2.5 million. I will get back to the Wolf funding here in just a little bit. Agriculture and Natural Resources Dual Credit Program. So my Chief of Staff, Jake Pilroy, this was his brainchild, and Jake did all the work on it. I'm not going to take any credit for any of it. My name got to the top there for a sponsor, and I was glad to sponsor it. This was 100% Jake Pilroy. Really appreciate him. Both he and Vicky worked so diligently, and Senate District 29 was served so much better by having a seasoned, well-educated staff that knew how to maneuver through the building. This program here, a lot of times if a student is excelling at math and he takes some of those higher courses in high school, he can get credit in high school and in college and secondary education. This does the same for natural resources and recognize the importance of that. And so, great program. It was met with almost universal support. Some of the colleges were a little concerned about how they might implement it and what they would give credits to. But in the end, we saw that one across the finish line, and congratulations to Jake on that. Great concept, great bill, and we got it through. Senate Bill 1019, I sponsored a bill on brand inspection, and this increased the fees on brand inspection. Never popular to increase fees, and it wasn't popular with me to just do that without trying to get some other products involved there. And so we did. And I know there were a lot of people that were frustrated with me, but I think that at the end of the day, by doing some of the things that we did, questioning some of the things that were in the brand inspection program, we're going to come out of there with a better product. There'll be an opportunity for people to do some contracting, some self-inspection, and make some of that easier. Even though the brand fee and the registration fee is going to go up on a per head basis and on a re-registration fee, in the end, there's going to be opportunity for many to be able to lower the amount that they were paying before. So that also is a win, and we will continue to work with ODA. The Legislative Research Office that is in the state capitol, they do a great job of researching a lot of different programs. In the interim, they're going to be looking at other states and what other states do with brand inspection, and then report back to the legislatures by December 31 of 2025 with what they found. And they're going to be also examining the program there at ODA and maybe find some more efficiencies there. So look forward to that and what might come out of that makes the program even better. I think every agency could do a re-examination of itself and how it's servicing the people of Oregon. What are the benefits, and are we getting the best bang for our dollar in what we do there? And enough of that. Lumber grading, Senate Bill 1061, which I thought would be an easy bill. Again, my chief of staff said there are no easy bills, and the hard bills are really hard. This one ended up to be a challenge all the way through from start to finish. And that program will allow you to do a self-inspection on like a small sawmill. So if you own a small sawmill and you want to go through a training that is set up through OSU Extension, now you have an opportunity to self-inspect those boards and sell them directly to somebody that's building a single home dwelling or a duplex. And this is a replication of something that was being done in a couple of Midwestern states. Alaska is looking at it as well. And we got this through. Ken Hall, that was a building codes inspector here in Wallowa County. It was his idea to begin with, and I want to give Ken credit for that. Unfortunately, Ken passed away before he saw this come to fruition, but we are really proud of this bill and really proud of the people that made it come to pass. The little school here in Wallowa showed up. Eastern Oregon Small Woodlands Association all showed up to support. And we had some really, we had some um, big timber guys. I don't know if the big lumber guys that weren't all that keen on it. I will say Oregon Forest Industry Council, they got to neutral on it, and we made a lot of accommodations for them to make that happen. And we wanted to cautiously go into this and make sure that everybody would be okay with it. And I think we have a good product in the end. I wish there wasn't so many regulations tied to it, but still, it's going to be a usable product. If you're so interested in that, you can get a hold of me or my staff, and we'll be able to direct you. There's going to be some rule writing. We're going to be working with OSU Extension to get those first trainings, and they're looking at probably having a training in LeGrand and one in Roseburg the first year. So more to come on that. We will keep you updated as that comes around. I just got done saying there's no easy bills, but I tell you what, prioritizing driver license test for rural residents. Senate Bill 9. Lisa Collier had this concept, commissioner here in Wallowa County, and she said, you know, there are students that are coming from all over the place to our little community to take driving tests because it's easier to take them here. One, we don't have any stoplights in Wallowa County, and two, because they can't get the DMV to get them signed up in their home area. So consequently, kids from areas, their local areas, were having to go sometimes 2 hours away or more to take a driving test. Come to find out, this was pretty universal throughout Wallowa, or throughout Oregon, I should say. And so she got a lot of support for it. She did all the legwork, worked with my staff, and in the end, she won the day and got her first bill through. And really proud of Lisa for doing that, taking that on. And then if she had any questions, she went ahead and asked them, and she dogged it right down to the end. And so congratulations to Lisa, learning how the process works and getting a bill through. Way to go. The designation of the T-bone as the official state steak of Oregon. And I know there are a lot of people that said, don't you have more important things to do than that? I certainly did. Recognizing cattle in Oregon, recognizing beef products in Oregon is an important function. The cattle women, the Oregon Cattle Women's Association, they were the main driver behind this. I was really glad to pack this bill for them. And we had a T-bone lunch down there for the legislators after it passed out of the House, and we had enough T-bones for every legislator down there. Of course, some of them vegans and vegetarians, and so there was more for some of us than others. But it was a great day to celebrate, have something lighthearted, have something that we could all agree on. The T-bone, as most of you know, is two different steaks. It's the New York strip and the tenderloin. And that strip steak side, you can decide which side is which, but Oregon is divided. And I tried to make the point that you can look at the T-bone two different ways, as a bone that divides or a bone that unites. And I would choose to try to find that bone that unites us. And anyway, we got that accomplished, had some fun with it, and took a little ribbing along the way. It was fun to do that one. Cattle pregnancy. Right now, with cattle pregnancies, a veterinarian is the only one that can go out and do that service and then charge for it. The Farm Bureau came to me and they wanted two different changes. They wanted a change with equine dentistry and pregnancy check. The equine dentistry was much more difficult to try to find any middle ground on. There was quite a little bit of middle ground on preg checking of cattle. Equine dentistry often, or most often, I should say, requires sedation of a horse. And if you just have a dentistry certificate, you don't get to be able to use those sedation medications that the veterinarians do. And so we're still going to work on that to see if there is some middle ground there that maybe the dentist and veterinarians can work together to achieve a common goal. Some of these folks that do equine dentistry, they go to school for quite a long time, make a serious study of it, whereas a veterinarian, and we have some very good vets here, and I have full confidence in them and take my horse there to get their dental work done. But some of them don't focus on that throughout their career, and so there are specialists that are out there that are very good at equine dentistry and aren't able to charge the same way as a veterinarian. So I think that it's worth looking at again. I promised the Farm Bureau that we would continue to work on this. And as you might remember, there was a fiscal attached to that, to put a work group together to study that, to have discussions, to try to see if we can come to consensus. The fiscally attached to that was $275,000. And I said, no way, we are not spending state money like that. So I pulled the fiscal off. We'll see what we can do and do it for really almost nothing here. So one of the special things about being a state legislator is you get to honor some people. And this was a special treat to be able to do that. Robin Church, clerk from Union County, she served as the State Clerks Association president. She also was innovative in some of the things that came down the pike when we first had vote by mail, and she was there. She dug into that, and the clerks don't get to decide the policy, but when it was laid out before, she dug in there, learned how to do it well, and everybody in Union County that I've talked to say they have full confidence in their voting system, in Robin Church, and that is a very difficult position. Those clerks' jobs, I can't tell you how complicated they are. I had opportunity while they were renovating the Wallowa County Courthouse, and they didn't have a place for all of us to be. And they put me in the clerk's office for about 6 months. And that was quite an education, listening to everybody, going through election cycles. Very difficult job. And Robin did it well and was recognized there. Senate Concurrent Resolution 12, that will be in state statute forever. So congratulations, Robin. Another one got to help with, and this really came, there was a lot of help out of Baker County. There were people over there that wanted to recognize Chuck Mohini. And Chuck was the deadliest sniper in Marine history, the most confirmed kills. Most people didn't know what he had done. He went back to his community. He lived his life with a lot of grace and a lot of peace, worked for the Forest Service. He did teach young people how to shoot, didn't talk much about his career. A stellar individual. There's a book about him called The Sniper. I would highly encourage you to get a copy of that and read one of Oregon's true heroes. the job that he did was to save his fellow Marines. And very difficult job to ask somebody to do what is the unthinkable sometimes, and then come home and live a normal life. And Chuck did that and excelled at it. Everybody spoke so highly of him. I never got to meet him, but it was wonderful to be able to do that and recognize Chuck. He had passed away a few years ago, or about a year ago, I should say. But his wife, one of his sons, some family members, friends came down there and got to sit out on the floor with us. It was a really special time. Senator Mike McLean carried most of the load on this and did an excellent job of speaking on it from the floor. Really touching presentation there. We had Wheat Designation Day. So February 11th, 2026, Oregon Wheat League will be 100 years old. And that was started over, and gosh, I should have looked at that a little closer. I think it was in Gillum County, maybe Sherman County, but few folks got together there. They were the first one in the nation to get together and form that sort of a league. So 100 years of that, since 1926 to 2026. One of the really cool things of this whole session was Tim Norman coming down with that beautiful bronze that is called Harvest, 27 hitch horse team that is pulling a wheat harvester. And Tim, people that come by the office, my gosh, they look at that and their jaw drops. It is a stunning piece of bronze artwork. So proud to display that from my good friend Tim Norman. Went from first grade on through high school with him. Always ultra talented, always ultra humble, and one of the most beautiful bronze works that I've ever seen. It is my favorite piece, and we're really honored to have it there in our office. We've talked about moving it over to the governor's office this fall when she comes back. Vicki Olson, my other staff member there, says, no way, we're keeping it here. So we'll see how that all works out. The last one that I want to mention is Senate Concurrent Resolution in 33. And that was recognizing Susan Roberts for all of her years of service. Just an incredible life of service, from being a Marine back in 1967 to taking some of those roles on different committees, to serving the City Council of Oregon or of Enterprise, and then eventually Mayor of Enterprise, and then to go from that to the League of Oregon Cities president. And for those of you that don't know, the League of Oregon Cities represents all the cities in Oregon. And while Susan was there, she visited every single city in the state of Oregon while she was there and served that year as president. I don't know of anybody else that's done that. I don't know a single other person. It was an amazing career she had. And then, of course, she stepped down here recently, and I was able to get this resolution passed the day before she announced her resignation from the Board of Commissioners here in Will County. And we had a time there with her to acknowledge what great things she's done for community, for state, and it was wonderful to be able to talk to her about that. We will be getting one of those parchment copies back soon, and get that framed, and with the will of the current Board of Commissioners here, we'll hang that up here in the courthouse. Really, really honored to be able to carry that. Okay, well, moving on. Agri-stress. So the agri-stress helpline that we helped established 2 years ago has been operational. Um, we didn't get that fully funded, as most of you know. Um, Allison Myers from OSU Extension has done just an amazing job of going out and soliciting private funds to keep that helpline going, to get it up and running to go to begin with, from advertising it to getting signage and billboards. And there's been so many that have contributed to make that happen, but really Allison was a driving force behind that. And so we asked for $2 million, which would have set that up in perpetuity. We wouldn't have gone back again. That would have gone in an endowment, and being able to pull 4% interest, $80,000 a year, takes about $68,000 a year to run the program, and then a little advertising money on top of that. That's what we were seeking. We got $200,000. We can use that for operations for the next couple of years, and it doesn't have to go in the endowment. So give Allison a little bit of break on fundraising. We'll go back again and try to get that. There was a lot of support for it in the end. I'm not sure what happens in Ways and Means all the time. It's a little bit frustrating, but that's where we ended up. Senate Bill 985, that was the mechanism to fund wolf compensation. We asked for $2 million for the biennium. There was a lot of things that happened with funding for wolf comp. And Senate Bill 985 never actually made it back out to the floor for a vote, never got amended down to 1 million. That's what we ended up getting that out of that, though. What happened in the very final stages of the session was there was a push for another bill. And there was a bill out there, 2977. And that bill gave money to ODA for invasive species. We have some of these invasive species like Esquaga mussels, zebra mussels. There's another bad mussel in Northern California. If they get into our waterways, folks, it's going to just be a train wreck. They clog up pipes. They do so much damage. We don't have a lot of money for inspection on those. And there were several other things that went along with that. There was added money for state police for poaching. There were wildlife crossings that were addressed there. A lot of places especially in Northeast Oregon, have extremely high vehicle strikes for wildlife, and that addressed that. Lastly, it addressed wolf compensation. And so a small percentage of that would go to wolf comp, and it would fund that in perpetuity. The sticking point on it was that it came out of transient lodging tax, and it was a 1.25% increase in the state lodging tax. And admittedly, and even in testimony, I said, I'm not keen on taking it from there, but this was an opportunity to fund wolf comp in perpetuity. I supported the bill, and it's one of those things that I think is going to come back with a vengeance, because there was a lot of support for it down the line. In the end, it was actually killed by some of my Republican colleagues, and didn't want another tax bill, and I can understand that. But when this thing kind of got airtime toward the end, there were other Democrats, there were Republicans, there were people from kind of all sides of this thing, from the environmental community to hunters groups to ranchers, that were all in support. And then some of the folks that were wanting more wildfire funding were saying, well, gosh, I'd like to see some money in there for wildfire. So I don't know where this thing ends up going. It could come back with even a higher percentage than what it had to begin with. And I didn't necessarily, like I said, I didn't necessarily want to put this on anybody's backs, but there was an opportunity there. I've been working to try to get funding for Wolf Comp for 15 years and trying to get a sufficient amount in perpetuity. This was an opportunity to do that. It had full momentum and was going to go through, and I jumped on board and was a chief sponsor of that bill. And but in the end, there was a minority report on it with just a few days left, and that extended it past the deadline, and it didn't pass. So that's where that ends up. Um, so we lived to fight another day with Wolf Comp. There was quite a lot of discussion after that, and seeing that we didn't get the full $2 million for Wolf Comp to get us through the next couple of years. Senator Lieber, that is co-chair of the Ways and Means Committee, was really sympathetic and let me know that she was dedicated to making sure that we were made whole there. I estimate that we are going to need somewhere around $2.5 million to get through this next couple of years, and we'll see. Maybe it'll be more than that. But it's one of those unfortunate things. Again, there's a lot of us that didn't want wolves here to begin with. Somebody is paying the price for wolves. It's been ranchers. And I think it's an all Oregon issue right now. Um, that's where we're at. And so as long as we're going to have wolves here, as long as ranchers are going to pay the price for it, somebody needs to compensate them for their losses. So that's where I lie on that. Okay, I'm dragging this thing out. I am going to go to some of the negative side of things here, folks. And one of the biggest heartbreaks of this whole session, one of the highlights and one of the heartaches, was Senate Bill 769, and that was the Cougar bill that would allowed us to pursue cougars with hounds again, and let each county vote on whether they wanted to allow that. It would have had to gone out to the voters of Oregon for approval yet first, and then to each individual county, and then still be managed by ODF&W. You would think that that would be reasonable enough ask to have all those firewalls, but in the end, it wasn't. We had overwhelming testimony, and at one time on OLIS, we had more testimony on that particular bill than any other bill in the building. And I'm really proud to carry that bill. You guys that came with your voices, that written testimony, super significant. And we're going to keep trying. We have to build a better case. We have to get legislators out into the country and talk to the people that are being impacted. Take a look at the decimation of the mule deer, and other species that are being impacted. And hopefully someday we win the day on that. Winning the day on wolves took so much effort. We're going to have to go through the same thing with cougars. And if you guys are down for the fight, I'm glad to shoulder up with you to get there. I'm running really long here, so I'm going to skip through some of the other defeats, but one of them certainly, wildfires being heightened is one of the biggest issues out there. Senate Bill 1035 was brought to me and others by Commissioner Paul Anders from Union County. And he made a great case for needing augmentation of fuel capacity at their airport. That airport out there at LeGrand services air traffic and defense for wildfires clear to Montana, and clear back the other way, back to the west, clear to Mount Hood. Huge area, north and south, east and west. And they have come dangerously close to running out of fuel before. So can you imagine having a fire, coming down toward a town or a residential area and not able to get retardant there because you didn't have any fuel. Um, uh, Senator, or excuse me, Commissioner Anders, you told your story well. I'm disappointed that we didn't get funding for that. I was disappointed on some of the other funding asks that I asked for that we just didn't get, but did a great job of sizing that bill up, and we just didn't get it. Repeal of the corporate activity tax. I had a bill for that, 762. Didn't go anywhere. I had some crime bills. I had some estate tax repeals, and those I had a couple of them, and those are huge, folks. There are some of the most wealthy elite people in Portland that are moving to Vancouver, Washington, just to get away from estate taxes. Um, there's people that have left our area to get away from estate taxes. Um, and we tried our best. We had several different versions. I partnered with some of those on the House side, and we just didn't get there. I thought that was something that should be an easier lift, to modify that a little bit, at least find some compromise, but we didn't get there, and that's really unfortunate. I had a couple of housing bills, and Senate Bill 940 would have allowed an additional unit to, and ADUs right now, um, they have a specific definition. They have to be 1,000 square feet or less, have to be within 100 feet of um, the dwelling that's already there, have to hook into septic and well and one thing or another. Anyway, with this particular bill, it would allow those houses to be a little bit larger. And we suggested up to 2,500 square feet so that a family could live there. And we were defeated at that. Um, and that was unfortunate. I thought that was an easy bill to ask. We weren't going to be impacting any ag land. We made a great case for that. One of the governor's priorities is more housing. This was a way that we could add more housing without having a significant impact, but we didn't get there. The other one was Senate Bill 1199, and that would have been um, a bill that allowed counties up to 50 acres to do some building for residential dwellings, and for smaller units, some of those that aren't the great big mega houses or expensive houses, and a kind of a concentration of at least 5 units per acre. And we thought that might keep the price down a little bit. Affordable housing is a significant issue all over the state, all over the country, and thought that might be something worth looking at. Ultimately, that failed as well. I'm going to talk about 2 more bills, and then I'm done. I promise you, folks. 1153, that was a water transfer bill. Came from the governor's office, and if you watch social media, you might have seen my little tirade on that. We ended up killing that bill, and I really want to give credit to so many people. For one, some of the water law experts that really dug into the policy of that, and then those who were able to sit in a room and ponder that, go over it. But I'll tell you what happened behind closed doors. So we sat down to negotiate this bill, and we have the environmental community there, people that have fish interests there. We have the municipalities that represented there, and then we had farmers and ranchers. Everybody got what they want except for farmers and ranchers. And I predicted that was going to be the way that it was. And anyway, in the end, we had support to stop this bill. And I'm not gonna name all the people because it puts them in precarious positions. There was a tremendous amount of pressure to move this forward, and they stood their ground. Um, so Republican, Democrats, you hear all about how there's all this infighting all the time. Sometimes we shoulder up together to do some really good work, whether it's moving something forward like wolf compensation or shutting something down that does damage to farmers and ranchers. And uh, and so that's really important that you guys know that it isn't all just partisan nastiness all the time. There is really some good work that gets done between the two parties sometimes. Transportation, the transportation bill 2025, that was a bill that it got pared down several times. There were some attempts in the last minute to have a really modified version of that. The Dash 28 version, I was looking at as late as the Sunday before last, and there was a lot of pressure to try to vote for that. What it would have done with all the fees and licensing, the points of sale, the really a sales tax for the first time on selling vehicles, all of that combined would have cost about 80 cents a gallon. And it was hidden in all these other fees. And so I was able to get that number, take a look at that. Um, I will be honest, I wanted a transportation package. At the start of this session, I made it known I want to be able to vote for a transportation package. The reason why is sound investment back into our infrastructure, bridges and roads that are in decline right now is important. These vehicles are very expensive. We all like to get in our vehicle and travel at a fairly rapid rate without hitting giant potholes, being safe, having our roads plowed. Those are all really important functions of government. And I think it's one of the three really big pillars of government. And those for me are public safety, education, and transportation. And we should fill those buckets up first and then fill in around there. So that's why I was willing to support transportation. The transportation package as it was, um, I was not satisfied with. And um, the some of the policies that are in there still, some of the mandated jobs that have to go to union contractors. Um, there are some things that could be negotiated down. Some of the things that are still in there for trails and bike lanes and public transit that need to be modified, that need to be set down further on the priority list, in my opinion. That didn't get addressed. Some of the environmental things didn't get set back. And so we're at a point in history where people are suffering because of the rate of inflation that we've been conditioned to here recently. And so to throw more taxes at a time like this is very troubling. But at the same time, we have to be able to pay for transportation. We have to be able to pave our roads, to keep them up, to invest in new and improved bridges and replacements. And it's vitally important we do that. And we got to find some middle ground on it. Unfortunately, that middle ground went out the door about a month ago, and it wasn't partisan anymore. And and this is where the partisan part of this really fell apart, where the Democrats, in the end, thought they have the supermajority, they can ram it through. They didn't need the Republicans, but in the end, it was challenging enough that some of the Democrats were walking away and having cold feet on this, and it ultimately ended up killing the bill. Um, I wish that I had a bill that I could have supported. I just never had one. And to me, the bill itself should have been solidified sometime back in March or April, and we should have been refining it and negotiating it and finding the best place that it served Oregon in the last stretches of May and June. But we were really looking at brand new policy at that point, and it failed. Now, folks, it was such an honor to be able to serve you. I can't tell you how challenging it was of an experience, how rewarding it was at times, how much I appreciate you all, and it is really good to be back home. I'll be setting up an office here in Enterprise, and my staff will be available. We're going to take a little bit of time off to kind of relax, reflect, and maybe do a little recreation, but we are here to serve you and look forward to doing more good work if we can. That you guys have a great day, and we will check in occasionally. All right, bye.